I'm Rick Bradley, class of 1975, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the 27th Annual Stillwater Pioneer Athletic Memorial Induction Ceremony. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. John Talley to do the invocation.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here and do this. I think I've done this almost every year. So thank you for the honor. We had 2 kids graduate from Stillwater, 99 and 2000. And so I see a lot of people back. Would you bow with me, please? Lord, thank you for this day. And we appreciate you giving us a lot of leeway in screwing up. And a lot of us here understand that. But we lift up right now the Watkins family and the pain that they're going through losing their mom. Lord, we honor these people today because of the love and the sacrifice they made for this school. And so, Lord, thank you for all the people that put this on to make this a special day. Forgive us for where we failed you and help us to honor you today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, John. Besides inducting people into the memorial, we also provide a scholarship to a Pioneer athlete, and in 2024, that recipient was Miss Macy Streeter. Macy, would you come up, please?
Hey everyone, I'm Macy Streeter. I just wanted to say how thankful I am for receiving this scholarship. Just a little about me, I'm now at Oklahoma State University. I'm a Theta, as many of you know, but I'm also in Follies, which if any of you know what that is definitely out of my comfort zone and not what I've done ever in my life, but I'm really enjoying it. And I'm majoring in applied exercise science, hopefully to become a personal trainer or a coach. But thank you again.
Thank you, Macy. Before we get started with the inductions, I'd ask all the board members, fellow board members, please stand up. Most of you are in the back and be recognized. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Casey Kendrick, who will be our Master of Ceremonies.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and let me just tell you I'm very excited to be your MC for today. As a member of TV 31, we're actually the crew that is taping this ceremony, and we have for a lot of years for the inductees and been able to give them copies of it for years and years. So I have been to many of these. I have been around many of these, never emceed any of them. And Tom Derringer, good for you guys. He's only going to be gone for 1 year. He'll be back next year. So you won't have to put up with me again after this year. But I just got to tell you a couple of things that I was thinking about as I was thinking about this, the honor of being able to MC this, is that first off, this organization is, again, I'm not part of the organization. I've just been around it. I've had a chance to promote it. I've had a chance to get to know the people that are a part of it. I've been in Stillwater for 30 plus years, so I know many of the inductees. Many of them I don't, because I'm not a lifelong Stillwater person. But when you look at this program and you think about the inductees, the great part about this is that it is about individuals that understood the importance of athletics, understood what athletics could do, the coaches, the people that had influence. Therefore, taking that and taking their upbringing combined with their opportunities in athletics and then turned it into something great in a lifetime. Their contributions, their achievements, the things that they did. They weren't all great athletes. Many of them were, but many of them weren't. It's just they were part of this program And then they went on to do other tremendous things. And so I think it's just an incredibly cool thing that that this board and this organization has done for so long. The opportunities that have been provided for young people, the recognition of some of our teachers, great people who have not, like me, didn't graduate from Stillwater. I don't know if I get to be an honorary member of the Stillwater Pioneer family. But Ron Holt, I see Rex back there. Ron Holt went in last year. I mean, what an incredible honor for Ron and the contributions that he made to this program. So it's interesting because, I have a pretty broad lens on Stillwater. I've broadcast boys and girls basketball, high school football, wrestling, softball, baseball. I've seen this program from a broadcast standpoint for nearly 30 years. I had a son who just graduated last year, was part of the state championship team 2 years ago with the football team. I had a daughter who's an 8th grader. I stepped out of the broadcast booth 2 years ago. I actually been coaching freshman football for a while, now helping out with the high school staff as well. And it's an incredible honor. And so here's a couple of things that I know about this program. One is it is truly a rich tradition, incredible place. Even though I didn't graduate here, again, that's, I'm proud of my hometown, but if I could call myself a Pioneer graduate, I think I'd say that with a lot of great pride. This group is always so connected. The class of 64 still meets at Hideaway once a month, and I get a chance to broadcast from there. So I see them and talk to them all the time. And every time they're together, they talk like they just got back together, haven't seen each other in 10 years, and they stay there and they talk forever. This is a special place. It really is. That's one. And two, what is very evident, and Tom Derringer has really done a good job of educating me on this over the years and talking about the inductees. But if you have a loved one in this ceremony, if you have someone in this memorial, they went on to do some incredible things. The amount of people that could be in this and the amount that they have to select from on a yearly basis is remarkable. This group represents some incredible individuals that shaped Stillwater and in turn were shaped by Stillwater. And so that's a really cool thing. So if you're in this, if you have people that are in this memorial, it's a very, very special honor. So with that, we will jump into the special ceremony. I want to remind you, if you do come up, or when you come up, when the families come up, we are going to present you with a plaque. We have a chance to honor the families as well, but please, we're going to wait until the end to do our pictures. We're going to have a chance to do individual pictures and a group picture as well. So if you would just wait, and we'll take care of that at the end of the ceremony. So with that, let's get started. Our first inductee is from the class of 1958. It is Joe Horn. And to induct him, his presenter is his daughter, Karen Hudson.
I would have to go first, of course. Never really done this before, but I'm absolutely honored to be able to come up and talk about my father, which is probably one of the most admirable men that's ever been in my life. I don't know why you do this. I'm totally fine, and then I get up here and I get choked up, but Stillwater has always been a very special place in my heart, as my grandparents lived here. My dad grew up in Stillwater his whole life, and so we came up as a family all the time to Stillwater, and I eventually ended up marrying an Oklahoma State football player. So weird how that came around, because I'm from College Station, Texas. So anyway, the Lord has funny ways of things working out sometimes. But first off, I just wanted to say thank you to Stillwater High and Stillwater in general for selecting my father. But I'm also here on behalf of my Uncle Jim Horn, my brother to my dad, and my Aunt Sue, which is my brother's sister, and then my mom. They've been married almost 60 years. Yeah. So I'm also speaking for everybody in my family. My brother lives in Shanghai, China, or he would be here too. But so I grew up coming to Stillwater at least twice a year. I will say that my father, although a professor at UT Austin, was extremely fond of his Oklahoma roots. He even has red dirt all over when he passed. I think my mom finally got rid of the red dirt jars that were all over the house in Austin, Texas. So, but he would tell anybody about how great Stillwater was and how great being and growing up in Oklahoma was, from all the fishing and the hunting stories to playing sports. And if I heard the story one more time that it cost 15 cents for him to get on his bike and go to the movies and get a Coke, get into the theater and get popcorn. Yeah, it was 15 cents, which that would be nice these days, but it's not. But I grew up learning and reading. I was a journalism major, and so I was always extremely interested in literature and reading. So when I would go to my grandmother's house, all I would do is read articles about my dad. And so I did know that he was the leading rusher and scorer his senior year in high school. He was the second high hurdler in the state and the third fastest 100-yard dash runner in the state when he was a senior here at Stillwater High School. But he also excelled extremely academically. He was vice president of his senior class and president of the S Club, and went on to be freshman class president at Oklahoma State, where he played football and ran track until an injury that he had, which made him then go into strictly academics, which, you know, that was honestly how I know my dad more than anything, is as probably the most intelligent man I ever knew. And even his grandkids called him Google before Google came out, because they would literally call him and ask him why there's stars in the sky. He could answer that, and then he would answer a random question about who won the presidential election in 19 whatever, and he would go off and tell. He was just the most brilliant man I have ever met, but he was also the most compassionate and moral and giving person. So he just had everything, and I was talking to my aunt and uncle, and it was actually nice to know that he actually failed at one point in life, which I'd never heard. Of course, he would never tell me, but I think his greatest disappointment, from what I've learned, is that he did not make All-State his senior year in high school here at Stillwater, which I guess back then they only selected 2 members to be All-State. And I guess he got up early that morning. He went and grabbed the 2 newspapers. He was so excited, and he realized he didn't get it. And he was very upset, according to my aunt and uncle. But I think that propelled him into being the person he ended up becoming later on in life, which was very intelligent, resilient, and he definitely brought these characters onto his grandkids and definitely his children, for sure. You know, he suffered a stroke at the age of 58, but was able to deal with that with very strong integrity for over 23 more years after that, which is very hard for a track hurdler to then not be able to walk and exercise and play golf and tennis and everything else like he used to. But he took it in stride and ended up just focusing on his grandkids and being the best grandfather he could be, which he ended up having some very athletic kids, or grandkids, not me, grandkids. He ended up having a couple grandchildren that played collegiate rugby, and my daughter was a Division I softball pitcher. And I just asked her a question real quick. I said, what is your greatest memory of Pawpaw, is what they call their grandpa. And she said, seeing him at every single game behind home plate as I'm pitching, And unfortunately, he never got to see her play in college. But she said seeing him made her, and she's on the bus going to Arizona State right now, but she just said that vision, and she said she welled up with tears because he was that kind of influence. So I don't know. I know we're only supposed to have 5 minutes. I wanted everyone else to come up and speak and not me, but I just know that my memory of my dad, he loved Stillwater, absolutely loved Stillwater. And I'm glad to call it kind of one of my second homes because I've been here so many times and my uncle still lives here. And anyway, so it's a very special place, but I hope y'all are very proud because he went on to do some very, very amazing things. But most importantly, he was picture perfect grandpa, father, brother, sister, everything, husband. My mom's going, husband. Yes, husband too. So thank you very much.
I am going to invite the family, if they want to come up, we would like to present you with a plaque. And if there is someone that would like to say something a little more, we would certainly welcome you to do that.
Thank you.
Anybody like to say anything? She covered it. Very good. There you go. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. Our next inductee is John Matlock, and we're going to ask Don Frank to come up. And as Don makes his way here, I will tell you that Bob Sanderson was supposed to come be the presenter, but he's a little under the weather. So I just reached out to him, instant messenger, and I said, I'm emceeing the thing, and you decide to go see the doctor. He said, I got to get the ticker working a little bit better. But he said, tell me how Don does, because I want to know.
Thank you, Casey. I want to thank Bob for giving me this opportunity. I always enjoy getting up in front of a bunch of people talking to you. Bob is, he called me this week, said he's getting a bypass and a defibrillator Monday. So I told him that Saturday should have still been open, but he didn't want to do it. I'll also mention to you that this lady I live with tells me the longer I talk, the quieter I get. So if this doesn't help me out this morning, raise your hand and I'll start talking a little louder. So I would like to read what Bob gave me that he had prepared. He starts off with thanking the family of John Ralph Matlock and to the Stillwater Pioneer Athletic Program for the opportunity to give tribute to John Matlock. I wish I could be there, but special thanks to Don Frank for reading my tribute to John as I am recovering in the hospital. I first met John in preschool, thus the beginning of our friendship. Through Westwood Elementary School, through the 6th grade, Stillwater Junior High, 7th, 9th grades, and we attended and graduated from high school at C.E. Donert High School, Stillwater, Oklahoma. John's football career began in the 9th grade, whereas 9th through 12th grade, Whereas a senior, he was voted to the Oklahoma All-State team. He was also on the high school track team and did the shot discus. Lifelong friendships were made with the football team, including friends Don Frank, Jim Clark, Bob Hurd, and myself as the football manager. All of the above attended and graduated from Oklahoma State University. After graduating from OSU, John began his career as a coach at Midwest City High School, and it was here he acquired the name of Mad Dog Matlock. Later, he was to become the assistant principal at Midwest City High School, and then he became the assistant director of Mid-Dell Vocational Technical School. John made a difference in the lives of students regardless of which school he was associated with. Life after retirement included residing in Midwest City with his wife, Marion. And on a personal note, he says, I enjoyed visiting John at his home and the wonderful meals Marion prepared for us as we talked about the good old days. John did spend a fair amount of time as a resident in skilled nursing home facilities. Our visits were always enjoyable as we enjoyed watching old OSU football games. Due to football injuries, John spent most of his later years in a power chair. John was a good friend who I trusted and admired. He was a man of integrity and a great friend to me. Needless to say, I miss him and our frequent phone calls to one another. Thank you for coming today. I know without a doubt that John or Mad Dog Matlock would be humbled and appreciate your presence. And I didn't realize I was only supposed to speak for 5 minutes, but I'd like to say a few of my own personal feelings about John. I always called him Big John because on our football team, most of our offensive line was wrestlers. And if you know wrestlers, they didn't like to be very big or have much extra weight. John was one of the few who we could run behind that could pretty much take care of his individual player as well as another one in front of him. We played 3 years together, but really I didn't spend a lot of time out of football with John. I played quarterback and right end while John was our left tackle. The only time I really remember being on the field with John was we were getting ready for the state quarterfinal game. Our coaches decided to put in a new blocking scheme for that, and they decided that we should do an X block. X block would be where I was the end. I would stand up like I was going out. The tackle would come over and take out the defensive end, giving me a easy shot at their defensive tackle who thought he had it coming home free. They took us out of class every 6th hour that week before the game, and John and another individual named Gerald Briscoe, who some of you might know from WWE fame, that he and his brother were the world champion tag team of WWE. So you can understand if they took 3 of us out there for practice 5 days at an hour at a time, there was one individual that really needed practice blocking. So they decided that those 2 would be the tackles, and that they spent most of their time trying to teach me how to block. So I always appreciated that about the coaches. Let's see here. One thing I noticed that wasn't in his biography or what Bob had written was, I'm almost sure, I talked to a lot of our classmates this last week, finding out things about John. But I'm pretty sure John was on the Oil Bowl team. Bob mentioned that he was an all-state selection, and the Oil Bowl team was played later after the all-state games, and they usually selected the best of the all-state teams to play on the Oil Bowl. So I'm almost sure that John was a member of the Oil Bowl team as well. And also, I'm pretty sure, I can't verify this, I don't have things on every game, but I believe John was one of the few 3-year starters for Oklahoma State, from Stillwater anyway, I'll put it that way. I know Tom Derringer, who's not here, but one of the founding board members, I know he started at end for 3 years. There was another individual some of us knew, Mike Upton, who I think played all 3 years, started it while he was here. And there's another individual that I go to coffee with once in a while that I'm not sure he started, but I know he was very prominent all 3 years while he was at OSU, and that's Don Garner. And Don told me last week that next month he will be 89 years old, and he's the oldest surviving OSU football player. So I'm still going to give him credit for starting all 3 years if he can stay around this long. So Let's see here. Another thing about John, and one of the things I was always impressed with, I played quarterback for a couple of years. Anytime you'd be in the huddle, you could always look up and you could see John there. And I know he always smiled when he wasn't out on the field, but it was really surprising to look up and see his smiling face in the huddle. Most of us didn't have that inclination while we were out on the field, so it was kind of nice to see John. I always appreciated his smile and also his willingness to help people improve. One person I talked to was our heavyweight wrestler, Bruce Ricks. And Bruce told me how John would actually come to the workouts because, as I said, there weren't many big people when we played football. And John would take his time to come in and work out with Bruce because Bruce didn't have anybody else to work out as a heavyweight. I never got in a wrestling room, thank goodness, but I know from stories that wasn't a very pleasant place to be. And I think for John to take his time to try and help Bruce get better was an example of how well John was and how he treated everybody. I had an uncle who was a coach in the Mid-Dell schools for over 30 years. And he and John became fairly good friends. And he always told me how well respected John was as a coach and definitely as an administrator as he moved up the ranks of teaching. That's about all I've got on John. One thing I would like to mention, though, while I've got you all, that you have to listen to me, I would like to pass along to the McGlory family that Cleo was a little younger than me, and as I said, I used to be a quarterback, and when Cleo was coming up, I always remember that people told us we were supposed to help those behind us. You know, like, always help the guy below you. Got to help teach him. Well, Cleo was pretty fast, one of the faster backs we had on the team. But every time I'd hand to him or give him a pitch out there where he could go wide, I'd watch, and just as he would get to the tackler, he would turn and the tackler would just nail him right in the middle of the back. Cleo would come back to the huddle and I'd say, Cleo, you can't turn your back. You got to stay square, keep your shoulders, lower your head. He'd just smile at me with that big old smile. And after about the end of the year, I kind of figured out what was going on. He was learning how to do that spin move that we see a lot of front backs do now. Of course, back then we didn't do that. But Cleo, by the end of the year, whenever he would come up and he would have somebody ready to tackle him, he'd put that spin move, all that tackler got was air, and he'd be gone. And while I had the mic, I just wanted to make sure and pass that along to you about Cleo. Thank you all for your time.
All right, I'm going to ask the Matlock family to come up and would love to present you with the plaque. By the way, WWE, wrestling, and football. There's a lot of knowledge. That's the greatness of Pioneer Athletics right there.
Well, while everybody's working their way up here, I do want to say a couple of things, if you don't mind. I'm Scott Matlock. John was my dad. First off, thank you, Don, for speaking today, and Bob, who couldn't be here, but I hadn't seen Bob since my dad's funeral, and we spent a lot of time talking over the last few months getting this together, and it was a lot of fun to catch up as well, hearing new things that I hadn't heard, hearing more today that I hadn't heard. It was great. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about his legacy that stands up here. I know you guys are brothers, and that's not quite a legacy, but Stillwater High School is. All of his brothers graduated, Randy, Ken, and Don, who's in Florida and couldn't be here. And then I graduated. My brother graduated from Stillwater High School. My brother lives in Omaha. He couldn't be here either. And now Porter, his grandson, is a senior at Stillwater High School. And Lydia is currently at Stillwater Junior High, but will most likely graduate here as well. So kind of a neat history and legacy of family. A lot of us have left Stillwater as it does and come back and have come back temporarily. I think temporarily I came back here 18 years ago. So probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So anyway, thank you again for the honor of inducting my dad and everybody for being here and celebrating everybody else today. So thanks.
Is that John? That was mine.
All right, so our next inductee is Cleo McGlory, which was the aforementioned from the class of 1965. And to present him is from the class of 1977, his niece, Karen Washington.
Hello. Let me first start off saying, okay, I'm going to try not to be like my uncle, which he was a very, very humble guy, very knowledgeable guy. And he was a preacher. And sometimes we'd invite him to preach. And I say, now, Uncle, you're coming to homecoming. And you need to be short. You keep it in reasonable. And he would smile on the phone. He said, okay, niece. Y'all know what that meant. He said, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give you my best. Okay, but sometimes we just want a little bit of your best to die. And then you come. My uncle was an awesome person. If I would start out and think like he thinks, the first thing he would do is thank God. Thank God for all the opportunities, for the doors that he opened for him. He would give God all the praise and glory because he definitely was a man of God, and he knew where all of his successes and all of his good and bad times, God was right there with him. So I would say that first, because that's who my uncle was. He was a big evangelist, where no matter what we had or where we at, he would always take these tracts around. So we would have a family gathering or whatever, and he'd have the tracts. He'd always bring plenty. He would just quietly give them to people, or sometimes he would just leave a few behind, whether we were at the house, whether we was in the park, whether we was at the church, Washington School Reunion. Uncle got his tracts like women get their purse. Let me get my tract bag, because he loved evangelizing. That was very important to him. He really felt like, as a child of God, that was something he was really, really required to do and felt strongly about. Another big thing that he was big about, and I'm going to ask him to stand, is his family. He had a blended family, and he loved his family, especially his grandbabies. We would have meetings, Washington School Reunion meetings, and he'd call and say, I'm coming, niece, but can I bring my grandbabies? Sure, Uncle. You don't have to. They're going to be the only kids there. He said, yeah, but I want to bring them. We made a road trip to Texas to see just brothers and sisters. Niece, you mind if I bring my grandbaby? No, Uncle, bring your grandbaby. So he loved family. So this time, I like for his wife, 2 daughters. He has a son-in-law, grandson, and granddaughter. Please stand. He's very proud. Very proud of his blended family. He loved all of his children very much, and he definitely loved his grandbabies. He was Pawpaw, Grandpa, and Poppy. He loved them all. It was like, which one are you? But he accomplished a lot, but he had a very humble spirit. And whenever he would come to Stillwater, he would always come by. And I was always there at my grandparents'. I went every weekend. I got spoiled by them. So I would come every weekend. And he'd come in and he would see me. He'd say, niece, you still here? Did you save me a donut? Uncle, I ain't eating all the donuts. But every now and then they would be gone. But he had an humble spirit, and he would come and then he would talk to me, and he would check on me, see what I was doing in school, see how I was doing and everything. He was a very humble and serious person. He was committed. Whatever he decided he was going to do, he did it. No matter what it took, he would get it done. So he was very humble. He had a real strange sense of humor. You know, he was very quiet, and he would say something and it's like, okay, it was funny, but his expression, you didn't know whether to laugh, but he got used to it because you would laugh. I remember we was planning a trip to Maryland, and his baby brother Eugene, you know, every family has some. He was saying he wanted to go, but he couldn't do the layaway and all that. And I said, well, Uncle, you're not gonna be able to make it. And Uncle Cleo said, well, niece, now wait a minute. Let's think about this. If it's hard and he really wants to go, we need to try to help him go. Uncle, if he don't have no money, Hart ain't gonna get him there to Maryland. He sat there for a minute. We went on talking about the plans and how we could put things back. And he said, well, niece, what do you think about creating a flyer that we can pass around to the family and help brother go? Uncle, are you serious here? It's just a vacation trip or whatever. Then we would go on to some back out. He said, well, niece, why don't we just check? I don't mind calling to see. I thought, Uncle, he can't go. But he was just one of those type of people that he wanted and loved doing for others. And if you wanted to do that, he wanted to try to make it happen. So he left there that day, and the last thing he said, niece, would you pray about making a flyer to send out to the family? Uncle, please, it's not gonna happen. But I knew he was serious, and no, I didn't do the flyer. And unfortunately, that uncle didn't make the trip. He did not make the trip. He was with the Washington School, and he accomplished a lot with his wrestling. He quit wrestling one time just because they were playing basketball. He thought he could do basketball. That lasted about 3 weeks, and then he went back. But he would try anything. He was good at anything, but he was very humble, and he could sing. A lot of people didn't know that he could sing. He had a beautiful voice. He could sing, he could preach, he could listen. He was there. He called out, it was 12 of them. And as years went on, he was one of those brothers that called and checked on his sisters and his brothers. He would just call and check in on them, see how they were doing, and make sure that everybody was okay. So he would always call them. I have not met anyone with the heart that he had out of all 12 kids. He worked with his dad. He was the son that was there. The other 2 sons was hiding out. But Uncle would be there, and he would try to convince them to come from sun up to sundown. That's just who he was. So for all of those that impacted his life, whether you were a teacher, whether you was a classmate, we say to you, thank you so very much. It meant a lot to him. He was very humble, but he always knew you didn't have to, but if you did, he did appreciate you. So on behalf of the McGlory family, we say thank you today. Thank you for this honor, and I can't think of a more deserving person. So I say thank you for him and all the other inductees that's been in the past, here today, and will be in the future. Thank you so very much.
We're going to go ahead and ask the family to come up, and again, if anybody would like to say anything else, but we'd like to present you guys with a plaque. Would you like to speak?
Hello, everyone. I am Paula McGlory. Cleo and I spent 16 wonderful years and 3 months of marriage. And he always brought me to Stillwater to reunions and ball games and wrestling matches. And I'm just thankful that he gave me that life experience. So thank you all for coming today. And he was an amazing man. That's all I can say. We used to call him Reverend McGlory back in the day, but I've known him all my life. He was a member of our church before he became my dad. He was my dad from my 20s on. And one of my fondest memories of him is just the connection that we had with sports. He was like really the only one in the family that could kind of understand me as a person because he lived it. And it's always been an honor of mine to know that he was the first Black national champion in the NCAA 1969 in wrestling. And that's been has played a big impact in my life as well as my family's life. but it also has given us the motivation to do the things that we do in our daily life. And I just want to thank you for all of his teammates. I had the privilege of meeting one of his closest teammates a little bit earlier at the beginning of the ceremony. Any of his other teammates that are here, his coaches, the Stillwater High Schools, the city of Stillwater, we appreciate you for just standing behind him as an athlete and helping him just to become the man that he was for our family. And we love you.
Thank you.
Love the passion. And you always hear that. Again, it goes back to what I said before. It's a special place where there's been a lot of special bonds, and that never stops. Through all the years, it just never stops. Speaking of bonds and looking back past the years, our next inductee is Shelby Wallstad Jenkins from the class of 1987. And in her presenter today is also from the class of 1987. But she also has a connection to the football program, the daughter of Coach Lim, who was the defensive coordinator here for many, many years. Please welcome Jackie Mammon.
Okay, this is so weird for me because when I got here, I don't know if y'all can hear me. I know you can't see me over the microphone. You know what? Forget it. Okay. So when I got here, John, I don't know if John's still here, John Tyler. Anyway, when he was praying about those of us that might have not done what we were supposed to, or however he said it, pretty sure he was talking to me. Mr. McGlory, my sister and I were laughing about it because last night, I remember she had to scrub marks off the floor from Mr. McGlory, and I might have gotten swats. That was back in the day when we used to get swats, and I think that every grade that I was in, I got swats from somebody. So anyway, you guys, it's an honor to be here and speak about. She was my best friend, but I'm gonna get this out of the way now for her family. So the Wallstad family moved here when Shelby and I'll stop this here in a second, give me a second. When we were in the 9th grade. And I was so grateful for her because, as you heard, my father was a coach here at Stillwater High School, and her daddy was a coach, and I can't look at them. But the understanding that we had, not only were we coaches' kids, our daddies were defensive coaches. And if you know anything about the difference between an offensive coach or offense and defense, you get a little glimpse into our life. We were not the offensive side of the ball, I can tell you that. Shelby and I had an understanding when she moved here. It was the first person that I knew she understood me and I understood her. We didn't even have to talk about it. So you guys, I want to say, I know God had a plan in that. They thought they were coming here for a job. God was bringing her here to help renew my hope in friendship. That's what Shelby was. I could tell you guys all about, let's see, when we went to a softball tournament and we decided we were going to put tobacco in our lip. Or I could tell you about the time that she put me on her horse and she slapped the back end of that horse and we took off running. And I've always heard that horses know. That horse knew that I had zero control. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and she's back here laughing her full head off. My life went before my eyes that very moment. I could tell you about the time that we were freshmen in college, and I think that first semester, our grade point combined might have been at 1 point. I could tell you about all the parking tickets that we got because we spent most of our time out at tumbling. But what I would, and back then you had to park so far away to get back to the dorm that there was no way we were going to park out that far. We would rather get parking tickets. So anyway, that tells you a little bit about me and Shelby. We had a whole lot of fun. On the flip side of that, when it came time for ball games, we sat with our moms. It didn't matter if we were in high school. It didn't matter if we were in college. We would go sit with them because we couldn't put up with the shenanigans that were going on in the student section. So that was kind of how we lived. We understood sport in our families is life. That's just how it is. I hear people say all the time that it's just a game. I view that differently. For our families, it's not. It put food on our table. Our daddies were responsible for raising not only us, but to raising quality young men. And so it isn't just a game as far as we were concerned. But what I'd really rather tell you about are the values and qualities that Shelby embodied. And when you talk about Pioneer Pride, she was absolutely that. Number one, there was no question she was an athlete. If you knew Shelby, if there was anything, like I think of homecoming and when you bashed the car and all that, if there was anything that was combined guys and girls and we needed a strong girl, Shelby was it. She was absolutely an athlete. But these are the things that stand out most to me. She was loyal. Shelby always had your back. Always. It didn't matter what was going on. She always had your back. She was tough. She was tough physically, and she was tough mentally. And, there were a lot of things, as a coach's kid, you move a lot. Funny, though, that both of our families ended up here forever. It's crazy to me that happened, but I'm glad it did. She had humility. Shelby never thought too highly of herself. And in fact, she also was always about everyone else. She was happy to be on the team. She wanted to be a part of the team, and she was equally as excited for anybody else's success as she was her own. One of my very favorite things about her, if you knew Shelby, if you've ever seen a picture of her, she always had a smile on her face, always. And she was always happy. Even in the roughest of times, I don't ever remember seeing her. We were kind of like sisters. I maybe saw her mad every once in a while, but I don't ever remember seeing her really. That's not a memory I have of her at all, except with a smile on her face. She lived her life full out. And you guys, I think it's something that we can all take from her playbook. None of us know how long we're going to be here, right? Her life ended too soon, but she lived her life full out. And I hope that we can all walk away and no, we're not promised tomorrow, so we might as well do the same. Tomorrow would have been her birthday, and I think it's the perfect way to honor her on her birthday. I'm going to steal something from her daughter, a quote that says, and I'm just going to end with this: "They may not be here to age another day, but today we celebrate that earth once held them because on that day they were born. And so was one of the greatest loves." Shelby was a pioneer. She was my best friend, and I'm so glad to be here to honor her.
This time I'm going to ask the family to come up and to be honored. And if anybody would like to say something, they would certainly be welcome as well. Jackie, you killed it.
I'm Rick Walston. I'm Shelby's brother, and her legacy is right here. If you wanted to say birthday, it was good. We have her daughter, Savannah Hudson. Her son. She has another son that's currently attending Fort Lewis College in Durango. Jackie brought up a good point about parking tickets. And I kind of jumped on that because one Thanksgiving, Dad decided it was a good idea that Shelby go ahead and do all the leaves at the house as part of paying back for the parking tickets. So, and the leaves were quite a bit. We had quite a few. About an hour into it, I'm like, oh, I got to go help her. So I went out and helped her. But Jackie said a few things that really made me think about. She was a tough kid, and I made her tough. I beat up on her. She ran with my crew. I was 2 years older. She was a tough girl. And she was by far the best athlete in our family. There's no doubt. She could do things that just because we put her in situations. I would practice wrestling moves on her. Did I break her collarbone one afternoon doing that? She drove down I broke her collarbone trying to show her a wrestling move I'd learned that evening. So Shelby was very missed. She's left a great legacy. I really appreciate the board for inducting her into this afternoon, and I'm very thankful that we got to be a part of this tonight or today. Thank you.
By the way, Rick is in year number 15, maybe, as color commentator for Stillwater Pioneer football on TV 31. I left him in the broadcast booth 2 years ago to go start coaching, and he's still up there and doing a great job, so I appreciate that. What a great moment, as we often see at this event. And another one, our next inductee is Link Townsend. He is from the class of 2004, and his presenter is a fellow Stillwater Pioneer teammate on the golf team, also from class of 2004, Mr. Aaron Wilson.
Man, what a neat morning. Congratulations to every family here that they got to celebrate their loved one and sharing your stories. Don't get to do stuff like this enough. So I'm proud to be here celebrating one of my best friends, Robert Lincoln Townsend, who we lost last year. And this is a story of friendship. It's a story of golf. And a story for Link. You know, I started golf when I was 5 years old at the Stillwater Country Club. My earliest memories are with my dad. Link was there shortly after, though. So my first memories weren't with Link on the golf course, but my best ones and my most memories were with Link. Eddie O'Rossi's here. Eddie and Link and I were really a trio that we were inseparable, really from middle school, junior high, and through high school of playing golf and being friends through these hallways. And it was a really neat group. With Link's passing last year, Eddie and I have gotten to talk more, get to play some golf, reminisce on Link and our memories and stories. And this is a collection of Eddie and I's collaboration of that, I would say, and a lot of things we remember. You know, to really know Link as a person, you need to imagine a friend who has the highest IQ of anyone you know, because Link certainly had that. He had an absolute photographic memory. I tell a story. He knew, it was like an 8th grade JV. You scored 11 points and I scored 12 against Guthrie, and we won 41-35. And that was our senior year. I mean, Link had an absolute photographic memory. But then he had the discipline that a lot of people don't have, especially in high school. I certainly was very low in the discipline category. And he had the ability to just lock in and pour his whole self into something. Now, being a parent now, I like to think sometimes about how we were as kids and how I was a parent. So putting myself in Bud and Betty's shoes, you know, Link was a model kid, but Link had an answer for everything. You know, so that had to be interesting to parent with, because it wasn't just hot air and a sales approach like I might have done. Like, it was thought out because his brain was working that quickly. You know, a funny story is, like, he told this story all the time. We laughed about it because we don't ride in golf carts in golf in middle school and junior high. We walked every day. And Link said when he was 4 or 5 years old in the bathtub, he pooped in the bathtub when he was 4 or 5 years old. And Betty gets out and said, "Hello, Link, it's okay, Link." And so what happened, he goes, Daddy did it. Daddy did it. He said, my dad was on a business trip. He was gone. He said, but he already had an answer. His brain was just always working that way. I mean, that high IQ, his mind was just in gear. His mind was that active, and it was that powerful. Early on in our friendship in middle school, it really started on the basketball court. Link and I were similar positions in basketball, kind of a wing swing forward, would shoot some threes and get in the paint, but he was a whole lot faster than me. And, looking back through really our whole career, until the end when he was so good the last few years that I couldn't touch him, but we were kind of in direct competition our whole lives for playing time, played a similar role on a golf team for similar tournaments, vying for the same trophy, but we never felt that. You don't feel that when you're that age. You're just a friend. You just encourage each other. And then looking back, Link was the ultimate encourager. Well, all three of us, we just wanted each other to succeed. And that's something that I'll always hold closely. So after 7th grade, Link started spending a whole lot more time on the golf course than him and Eddie and I all did, to the chagrin of Dan Pryor, the head pro at the Stillwater Country Club, and probably most of the membership, because we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of memories. Link and Eddie and I would spend all summer there and drinking our Diet Dr. Peppers, our snacks from the grill, and then of course the holy grail was the cheese fries at the ranch. Until our parents cut us off on like the 5th day of the month, and we couldn't order any more food the rest of the month. But 7th, 8th grade, that summer is when Link really took a huge step forward in his golf game. Eddie and I acutely remember the first time he broke 80 on the 18th hole. He had to chip in, and he was about 5 yards in front of the green with his wedge, and he chipped into the front green. And we remember because it's just iconic, but he threw his club as high as he could in the air and basically just fell back onto the fairway. He broke 80 for the first time. Not irony, but just amazing to say less than a year later, he broke 70 on that same golf course. So his trajectory in athletics and in the sport of golf was just something that a few have seen. So, we know Link had the IQ, but it was really the discipline and work ethic that he could really lock in and become what he was in golf. He really obsessed about golf. I mean, it was a true obsession. Propelled him so quickly. He watched the Golf Channel. It was coming along when we were kids, and there were lessons all the time on there. He'd read Harvey Pinnock books. He'd read the magazines. He was truly obsessive of the game. The golf game, when we were that age, you have to think about like persimmon wood clubs were still around when we were kids. So it was the new age of golf technology, and clubs couldn't just fix you, and there wasn't an app to show you how you're hitting it like there is today and cure yourself really quickly. You had to go put the time in on the course, and these clubs really couldn't do as many things as they can today. But Link had a gift. Link could hit the ball so high, which is needed to land softly on a green, but he could also hit it so hard with these clubs that really, today it's no problem doing, but back then you really couldn't do. But Link could. He was the ultimate tinkerer. He would be working at the range day and night, longer than I could, switching his grip, working on a new swing plane. He could hit a high fade around hole 15 and have a wedge in for eagle before when kids couldn't do that at all. And then he could draw one into the wind and into tougher conditions. He was the ultimate tinker. And I actually think one of my thoughts of Link, I just say, think about Link. He's inside always working on his golf swing. He would do this inside all the times, and the ceilings would be low. You'd be worried he's going to hit the ceiling, but he just knew where it would go. And a tribute to that, Eddie remembered, he took the chunk of a carpet out of your house because he would just swing over and over. And one time he took the chunk out, and that's that'll be a sticking memory for me to say how dedicated he was to that. Our cell phones back in the day were coming along, but they didn't have cameras on them. They were old Nokias that had, the game Snake on them, right? But that didn't stop Link from recording his swing. In the evenings and afternoons, he'd break out the camcorder on the range and record his swing over and over. And frankly, in my discipline, I told you it wasn't as high. Like when the camcorder got broken out, I went to the pool, I went home, I did something else. But he plowed through the hours and hours and hours. And looking back, he spent thousands more hours on their golf course than I did. And, we can look back and results weren't that different, but the margin of error when you get to the top of athletics, that matters. And that's how he got to the top. And Eddie and I wound up as a good average golfer, so that's the separation there. And it showed on the course. You know, Link made the high school team as a freshman. Nobody made the high school team as a freshman. You played 8th and 9th grade junior high. There were junior high tournaments, and nobody made freshmen. You know, now I think you can. It didn't really happen, you know. It was clear he was on a different trajectory, and we were his biggest fans. You know, his junior year of high school golf will go down, or is gone down to probably the greatest year of high school golf for a junior in Oklahoma State history. The words on the page can't describe that, but you understand, like, his scoring average was under 72, which is par on most courses. Not his best round, but his average. He was just so consistent, and he was so dialed in. You know, we made a joke always when we were younger, when he started hitting the ball so well. It's like, if you could hit the ball off the whole tee and just I could putt for you, we'd be the best golfer in the world, because I couldn't hit it anywhere, but I could putt pretty well. But Link had to putt as well too. You don't shoot 71 on average and not putt. You know, Eddie always talks about him being so clutch. You know, a clutch gene for an athlete is rare, and not everyone has it. A lot of guys can play well when the pressure is high, but when your palms get sweaty and you get nervous, that's really, I think, what separates greatness. You know, I think of one where Link was on an 18th hole and the score was in the clubhouse and he needed a birdie to win the golf tournament. A par would have tied it. I think maybe in Shawnee his junior summer, and he was 210 out in the fairway bunker, 210 yards. And with equipment back then, I mean, no one our age was getting on the green from there. They were taking out and trying to pitch in. And he hits a 4-iron to 5 feet, birdies the hole, and wins the golf tournament. I mean, I literally, the next day, I remember dropping my ball on hole 5 at the country club and trying to hit a 210-yard bunker shot, and I couldn't even get it out of there. And Link's hitting it 5 foot in the hole. So, you know, we were so proud of that achievements. But, you know, there's no question and no reason why he wouldn't have been. But he was chosen as a 2003 Oklahoma Golf Association Player of the Year. And this is against current PGA Tour pros like Robert Streb, Kevin Tway, and others. And he was the absolute dominant best. You know, Eddie remembers having his best high school tournament ever at Stillwater Country Club. They don't always host one, but they did. And he shot a 71. And he was in the clubhouse because we were playing JV and Link was playing varsity behind us. But so he shot 71 and no one's beating him in the clubhouse. So we go out and watch Link, and he's like 4 over with 3 or 4 holes to play. We were sitting fine. Well, Link then birdies 15, 16, and 17. And on 18 makes a 30-footer for par just to tie Eddie. And he's thinking, the best day I ever play. And Link plays a pretty average round. And they go to a scorecard playoff back to the number 1 handicap, and Link beat him on that hole. So Eddie didn't win the golf tournament. Link won. Of course, we're proud of him, but it just exemplifies on our best day and an average day for Link, it still didn't match up. You know, 2 nights ago, I looked and I just started Googling Link's name, right? I'm looking for results because I knew there were some really impressive ones. And there's, you know, the internet, nothing dies around on the internet. If you go look at the AJGA Association, which is the top golf junior association, every top golfer in the country plays this association. Karsten hosted one of their big tournaments always. But Link played in Florida in 2003, and he finished 10th. And if you look back, 1 shot better than him and tied for 3rd was Brian Harmon, who's won 4 PGA Tour events and the Open Championship. Patton Kazire, who just won his 4th PGA Championship tournament last month. Jonathan Moore finished a shot better, who's my best friend, OU golf coach, OSU national champion individual golfer. 3 shots down was Webb Simpson, future PGA Hall of Famer. And our very own Stillwater pioneer, Link Townsend, was right there. You know, that's how excellent his golf game was. You know, his accolades deserve him this honor and to honor the family. The write-up is more descriptive of a lot of his other achievements, but I just remember I just want to share a couple memories that Eddie and I have as a friend, because we got to live really the most impactful years of our life. Middle school to high school is it. I mean, it's so impactful. There's a lot of innocence there. There's a lot of growth, and there's a lot of friendship, and we just had that nice circle of it. So Eddie and I remember 36 holes and more in the Stillwater Country Club, day after day in the summertime, playing till dark until you can't see your golf ball on the way in. We remember putting and chipping games on the greens all afternoon, and then going into the men's locker room, which is like the sanctuary of the men in the country club. And we're just sitting in there with our Dr. Peppers and our feet kicked up as 16-year-olds. They've hated us being in there. Hitting drivers in the range when you're not supposed to, and hitting it in the parking lot over the net, hitting the pro shop, and Dan Pryor racing down to see you hit it, and all of us to shove our drivers in the bag and just stay quiet. Like, he knew it was us. Racing down hole one, the hill, and the golf cart when we could drive golf carts when we were older, and swerving and shoving the guy out of the cart, barreling him down 30 yards and probably dislocating his shoulder. But I mean, we weren't all angels, but none of us were. But those are a lot of the memories we remember. Link had a teal Chevy Blazer, and we would race from here in McElroy. In like 01 or 02, McElroy became paved. I don't know if you guys remember that, but from Western to Country Club, it became paved, and that was the high school golf racetrack on the way after school. If you went between 3:05 and 3:15, we were dangerously making it to the Stillwater Country Club to see who could get first. Those are the fun memories. But through everything we experienced together, really so close through high school, and keeping in touch throughout. When he went to go play golf, and our lives bend apart and come together at different times, but. We both had a lot of really high highs in our life, and we both had a lot of really low lows separately. But I think a lot of that is meant to be, and is a lot of God's path and the intertwine of that, of being best friends growing up. Link, proud to call you a fellow teammate, but more proud to call you a friend. So rest easy, buddy. Thanks.
This time I would like to ask Link's family to come up, and if anyone would like to share some words, we would love to hear from you. There you go. Thank you. Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial. When you think of the word spam, lots of times good things don't come to mind. Processed meat, fried up with a good cheese, it might work. An unwarranted email, spam. But when you think about Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial, they've saved the word. The acronym is special. This is special. This event is special, and congratulations to each and every one of the new inductees. It is such an incredible honor for each of them and for these families. And so how about another round of applause for each of them? I'll close my part out with this. When you think about the ceremony and the induction, I mean, how cool is it that these lives that were well lived, that are being honored, that have gone on to do such incredible things, are being inducted into an organization that continues to grow and gives to young people that are going out to make changes in the world. It truly is a remarkable thing. It really is. All right, with that, let's close out today's ceremony. I would like to ask Mark Wagner, the class of 1969, to come close our ceremonies.
Thank you, Casey. Yep, class of 1969, just a few years ago, but not so long that I don't remember a couple of the inductees. I remember watching Cleo McGlory running down that field and wanted to be like him. And also, my senior year, we were playing football, playing Memorial, or Edmond. I guess they called it Edmond Memorial at the time. There was only one high school in Edmond at that time, by the way. And we came in at halftime, and I was playing the worst football game I've ever played in high school or even or college. And I felt pretty low, and at that time, John Matlock was our assistant coach. And we were all kind of hunkered down in the locker room for halftime, and I'll never forget. Coach John Matlock came in, looked around, finally found me, came up to me face to face. It was a very short critique. He said, "Wagner, you suck." And then he walked away. Well, it lit a fire under me, that's for sure. But I'll never forget that feedback. He was something else, Randy. I know you agree. Well, it's an honor for us to commemorate these 5 lives, well lived and well remembered. And in honoring these people and their achievements, we're also telling their stories, which keeps their memories alive. And in so doing, we have the opportunity to help young Stillwater pioneers achieve their life goal of a college education. This call comes under the banner of Pioneer Pride, as so many graduates know those terms. We're very proud of the 25 scholarships, Jim Harris scholarships, that this memorial has enabled since we started in the year 2000. But it's only possible through your generous donations as classmates, friends, and family of these inductees. We started out that first year with $2,000 for 4 years of college. And I'd like to say how successful we are today, because it's grown to $12,000 for 4 years of college, or $1,500 per semester, that we dole out to these very deserving students. It's also one of the largest private scholarships given at this school. It's a unique scholarship because we look for students who have not only participated in athletics, like some people have said, they don't have to be the best. They just have to participate. And then also exhibited a great sense of pioneer pride and leadership. Although we pay close attention to the grades and want to see excellent grades, we also pay close attention to the financial need. In the past, many of our scholarship recipients were not able to attend college without these scholarships. So we pay a lot of attention to that. The scholarship creates a legacy of pioneer pride, just like these inductees leave a legacy to their families and friends. And we need your help to keep this going. We ask for your generous donations in honor of the current and past inductees, or a candidate of your own choice for induction into Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial. To make your tax-deductible donations, there are envelopes in the back of the room on the tables for you to write a check and then mail it in to us. And in the future, we'll be able to make donations online. I just checked it last night. It's, remember, it's stillwaterpioneermemorial.org or .org. So I checked the donations out with PayPal and everything last night, and it was busted. So we'll get that fixed, and then you can donate online if you'd like to. The website also lists the address for mailing checks made out to the Stillwater Pioneer Memorial. And if you'd like to nominate a person for induction into the memorial, the website has a form to complete online, or you can download the form and mail it to us. So that part of the website is working. stillwaterpioneermemorial.org. As a reminder, all the families and presenters of the inductees should stay afterwards for group photos. We'll get you one at a time up here, one group at a time. And thank you for attending and supporting Stillwater Athlete Memorial and the inductees. This concludes the ceremony. Thank you.